Welcome to episode 20 of The Martial Truth. We have a special episode this week. My Taiji master, Master Chen Zhonghua, is here, and he's consented to be interviewed. So we're going to ask him some questions and, see how it goes. So hope you guys enjoy it. So, when did you start training in martial arts, and what did you initially study, and what led you to Taiji?
In terms of martial art in general, I can't really pinpoint when, because in China you grew up with martial art. So for me, when you have formal training, or at least you consider yourself that you are training, then that's the starting point for me. That's in high school.
High school.
Before that, you always played with the kids, and other people were training in their groups, and you are around them, and you're doing things, but you're not part of the class.
Okay.
So in high school time, I was part of a group learning martial art, and the group is fairly big, but there isn't a very reputable master. So for me, the real entry was once I was in university. Although it was a club, but there was a professor who was teaching it. So when I joined that class at the age of 18, university time, so I consider that real learning. Before, just fooling around.
Right.
Like playing ball here.
Right. And what was it you were studying at university? What martial art was that?
The formal learning was a form called Chuan, and that's the predecessor of today's wushu.
Okay.
Like Jet Li, he
Right.
did that kind of choreographed, dance-like, very nicely put together, staged for performance. Prior to the formation of wushu, in old times there were two forms from northern China. One is called Chuan, and Chuan is actually Cha is a name from the Muslim community in northwest China, and the person who created it was called Zhami. But the word Zha, they adapted the Chinese character, and we thought they used that word, but the original sound is a Zha. But for the Chinese, it's pronounced as a Cha. So we all knew Chuan and studied that for over 1,000 years, but it turned out it's a Chuan. So that's just the story, and that Chuan was totally accepted in the Chinese culture. And there were 10 routines. I studied in university up to routine number 4.
Okay.
And at that time, Jet Li's Shaolin Temple movie came on the screen, and we watched it and saw some of that stuff. At that time also, I was learning the Shaolin style.
Okay.
And the Shaolin style is also very technical. There are many, many forms. And the basic one is form 1, form 2 routine, and we also say routine Lu. That's why in Taiji we have Yi Lu, Er Lu.
Right.
Lu means routine.
Lu means routine.
And the form that Jet Li did in that movie is Shaolin style form route 4. And at that time I studied that one. So when you see that Jet Li in the movie was doing that one, that's the form I know. And I got so excited. I saw that Jet Li movie, Shaolin Temple, 11 times in 1 week. And of course, at that time, there was no other entertainment
Right.
to go to. So that was my formal training. And in addition to the Shaolin style and Chuan style, I was doing a thing called Da Hong Quan, Xiao Hong Quan. It's called a big red fist and a small fist, and many other forms. I collected about 30 to 40 different forms in about a year. But external, you just learn the form, the choreography, you train,
Right.
you become good.
Right.
Good meaning you don't forget, you are very fast and
Right.
you look good. And there's no real fighting or competition involved. So that was my original training.
Okay. So what led you to study Chen style Taijiquan practical method?
It was quite a coincidence. About 3-4 months into my Chuan, or that external martial art training, one of the brothers in our group said, all this stuff we are learning, we can't really fight. There's this old man teaching every morning in this place called the Black Tiger Springs, and it's a park. And we all know that park. We went there before. But their training was early in the morning, so we did not run into any of that. So this, my friend said, this old man can hardly walk, but if you try to fight him, nobody in the neighborhood of Jinan can fight him. And the Jinan at that time had 7 million people.
7 million people.
And so immediately I was like today's young people, 18 years old, and I said to them, I said, you guys can be stupid if you want, but I'm not. And he says, I don't believe that a 70-some-year-old man who cannot walk is undefeatable. So that Saturday I went with a junior martial art brother, 7.5 years old, and I went with him. And when we saw what was happening, I put him on he was sitting on my shoulders, so he could also see. That's the first time I saw Hong doing his thing. And there was no form. When we went to the Black Tiger Springs, the event was over. And the group of Japanese people, it was a delegation, I did not know, but later on I found out. 27 people, after learning for over a week, they were leaving that afternoon. So in the morning, the head of the delegation said, we have studied with you, and we were very patient, but now we want to know what this is for. And Hong said, that's a challenge. And the interpreter said, that's a challenge. The Japanese waved his hand. He said, no, not a challenge. And just want to know the application. And Hong said, any way you phrase it, that's a challenge. And so that was settled. And then the Japanese, the head of the delegation said, then how do we start? Because it sounded like he accepted the challenge. And Hong said, you issue the challenge, you start. I'm not calling conditions. And so the Japanese guy was very polite, and he showed the move, says, can I do this? And Hong said, suit yourself. So Hong was standing like this. His hand is always like this, holding a pipe. Now he put the pipe in his pocket. His hand is still like this. Many, many years later, I realized that the way he was holding the hand, that's a defensive move. That's how he defended himself, with the hand here. And the guy approached, like took a step and tried to hit him here. And he went slightly like this, and then I just saw there were like 60, 70 people there in the park. The Black Tiger Springs Park is part of a large park. This particular park is in a raised, like on a little hill. There was a little bit of flat area, not too big. And you just see him like this, but the guy's fist never reached him and then bounced back. So a good 15, 20 feet, 3 to 5 meters. But he was airborne. When he landed, because the platform was, the floor was hard rocks, not quite even, but quite worn. And the landing made a very loud sound. And so the guy, when he landed, he did not fall down. He had good form. Landed in a stance, and they immediately said, that's not fair, I wasn't ready. And he said, can I try again? And Hong said, you attacked me and you were not ready. And he says, okay. And then the Japanese wanted to make sure he had the same experience. He said, you throw me just like that, same one. And Hong said, you attack the same way, you bounce back the same way. And he issued another, and he bounced back. By the first one, then I kind of started squeezing my way in, because there were people around. I could see, but still, let's say maybe 10, 15 feet away.
Right.
So I went in. We're talking about maybe 3, 4 feet away. Very dangerous. I was very close. I wanted to see what happened to that. That punch is roughly towards here. And the same thing. The guy bounced back without reaching here.
Right.
And so for me, that was a mystery. And nobody in that area, in that place saw. And I, of course, I was there for this. But the other people were just people in the park in the morning. When they saw this, they all gathered. And people did not leave immediately. Everybody was talking. Then everybody kind of went home. And I followed home to his home that day. And ever since that, I studied.
And what was it like training with him? How would you characterize the training, the experience?
It's confusing because you do not know whether he's teaching you. and you do not know whether you are accepted, and you do not know what you are learning, and everything is riddle. And but you know for sure there are lots of people there, therefore there is training, and you think that he was training other people in a way you expected, and you are the only one he's not training. And as time goes by and you find out it's the same for everybody.
Everybody feels the same way.
Feels maybe the other guy is getting the real training, I'm not getting anything, because whatever I do, it sounds like he's not talking about this.
Right. So, tell us about your mountain in China.
Since 1991, every year I took my students from North America and other places outside of China to go back to China to train. But at the very beginning, we would travel through tourist spots. We would land in Beijing, go south to Jinan, then further south to Suzhou, the canal city, like the Venice of China. Then go to Shanghai, sometimes to Canton, and come back from Hong Kong. While touring China, every morning and every evening, I would teach Tai Chi. So during the day, we would do sightseeing things. We did that for many years. And one year, some of my students, and you know Chuck and Roger, those
Sure.
guys,
Yeah.
and they started saying, why did we go to China with you? That you're not really teaching us. We'd rather spend the whole day with you learning Tai Chi instead of seeing Chinese sites. And we can do a separate trip. And when we're with you, we want to be with you all the time. And not that during the day we don't know where you are, you give us a tour guide. And so I said, you don't mind missing that, not only you, but other people, you
Right.
think they don't mind going
Right.
to China, not seeing China? I said, we can care less. They're like, as long as we train. So I said, if I put you in one place, we just train for 2 weeks or 3 weeks and that's fine. I said, yeah. And then I thought, if that's the case, I need to look for one place that has everything.
Right.
Then you have to have fresh air and good weather and food, lodging, and all of that. And so another part, let me go back a little bit, is that while traveling, I invite masters from each location to come and meet with my students. And again, I was doing a service to my students. And they were saying, like, why do we need to see those people? We'll only see them once in our lifetimes, and it's good for a photo, but we're not going to learn anything from them.
Right.
We'd rather that we get very serious, extensive, very intensive training with you. And so all those years, I realized that I was wasting my time and their time. And so I was looking for a place. So I told my brothers, and I'm looking for a place. We don't care how rough it is. We just want to be in one place without being disturbed by other people. I like to find a place in the mountains. We can hike in, stay there for 2 weeks. We can carry our supplies. We do martial art. And it's very, very difficult because every Chinese person wants to show their best side. They want to take you to the big city, find you a shiny big hall, and say, this is your retreat. I said, no, this is not my retreat. So one year, we were talking about this, and somebody in the restaurant we were eating came to me and says, Mister, the place you're talking about, I know where it is. I said, what do you mean you know where it is? You know what I'm talking about? He said, yeah, you're looking for a nice place, but nobody can find. And I said, you know? He said, yeah, I know that place. And he said, if you want, I'll show you tomorrow, show you this place. And I immediately said, let's go. And so my friends and my brothers, my brother, like brother, got upset. He says, you know, we try to help you and you're talking to a stranger. You don't know this guy. And I said, I don't care. It's like, as long as he finds me the place, it's my own deal. I'm not dealing with him, but he knows the place. I went to see the place. Couldn't get in. He got lost. There was no road. Finally, we found the place, hiked up by following the riverbed, a dry riverbed. Because the water comes from the top and leaves a trail.
Right.
We went to the top and there was a courtyard. It looked like it was abandoned, but it was supposed to be used. Just people couldn't find the place. So actually, the guy who told me, he was the owner.
Oh.
He
okay.
rented the place for 3 years, and to set up a retreat type of secluded restaurant. It turned out, he said, he advertised it in town. Nobody could find it. And he said, and it will cost too much to build a trail or something.
Right.
You're talking about mountains.
Right.
And he said, if you want, like, I'd be happy to transfer my title, my 3-year lease to you. So I went to talk to the government, and it turned out that we bought that lease and extended for 58 years. And we are talking about a barren mountain with nothing except this one lodge.
How many acres?
Acres would be probably 95,000 or more. You guys don't use kilometers.
No.
I calculate it's roughly 28 square kilometers. It comes to about 12 square miles.
Okay.
So it's a large area.
Right.
It's very big. And with nothing, we first went and reinforced and cleaned up the courtyard with 20 plus 5, so 30 rooms. So some are like living rooms,
Right.
resting rooms, and bedrooms, and converted the corner rooms into public bathrooms. We couldn't change the physical structure, and but we can change 2 rooms into 1, and made public very nice bathrooms. And then in 2006, I had my first full-time class. Students from North America. We had 10 people staying with me full-time on this property for 3 months. Ever after that, since that, I have full-time training on the mountain. Now the mountain has more than 200,000 square feet of developed space. A large hall, a large 4-star hotel with 2 halls. Each hall has the area of 20,000 square feet with no pillars. And this is inside the building. So you stay in your hotel rooms, step out of the room is a floor. And 2 floors like that. So this is the best Tai Chi training facility in the world, specifically for Tai Chi, but I only do this 2 times a year and using up no more than 3 plus 2, 5 months, less than half of the time. The rest, Chinese people use it for conference facilities and things that they want to be far from the city.
Yeah, vacations.
Yeah.
Some people come there because it's all. You also have other facilities where
Yeah.
people can,
Yeah,
kids can play there
we
on
have
different
parks,
things.
kid parks, and all sorts of, but all homemade, no high-tech stuff.
Right.
That kind of stuff. And we grow our things, vegetables, and raise animals on the mountain. In 2011, we reached about 90% self-efficiency. And now we are back to almost 30% because the restaurant became so famous. We are feeding, like yesterday we fed 800 people.
Right.
On the average in the summer, we feed about 500 people. Lots of visitors. And when we opened up for tourist business, we had 250,000 people that first year. And now it's like we don't even keep numbers anymore, like too many people.
And the thing to realize is I was there 10 years ago, and Master Chen's also supporting the local people. He's buying produce from them and different products. So for the people in the area, it's been a great addition because it's really helped the economy there. And the government's helped too by building some extra roads and some other things, so it's easier to get there. I know when we went, we did a great hike. It was tough, high elevation, but we really enjoyed it. The training was fantastic. I mean, Master Chen has some full-time instructors there that are exceptionally good. They've been training for quite a while, and they have excellent ability, and they know how to teach the system, which is a big plus. So anybody interested in possibly doing that, you can go to Master Chen's website at practicalmethod.com. You can reach him there. But something I highly recommend. Very peaceful place. The food's fantastic. I mean, I went there with a group of 6, 7, or 8 of my students. Everybody had a great time, and I'm hoping to get there again in the near future. So
Pretty soon.
yeah, I hope.
On the mountain, I started in 2011. I organized a Taiji competition, mainly for the push hands part. Because push hands in China is very disorganized. Everybody does their own thing. And so since then, I've had 7 formal competitions. In 2018, my competition became the #1 rated martial art competition. It's also rated by the Sports Commission and the Tourism Commission jointly as the best run event of the year for all of China. And we had 1,300 competitors, and altogether about 4,500 people coming to the event, and had people from all over the world. The competition, the main thing is that because I ran a clean competition without any corruption. This is why our reputation was #1, because most competitions are fixed. Ours is like, my students are not participating, we're organizers, and we let other people compete. We provide this international platform that you can come here, showcase all your training. Because people, martial arts, especially young people, they really hate going through the training and go there, somebody bribed the judge and you didn't get it.
Right.
And so I mainly work with people, judges from Singapore, from the United States, Australia, some Europeans, and we walk in, we only run the event. We're not participants. We don't take sides. We don't know any of the competitors.
Right.
And because of the pandemic, we stopped. But now this year, this is 2023, and in 2024 we'll have the formal big one. This year we'll have a preliminary, and in the future we're going to have one competition in North America, one in Europe, one in Southeast Asia, Australia, and one in China. The winners of the 4 will come to the mountain to do the big one.
Oh, very good.
And it will be smaller. There will be like 20 people competing, very professional, only top-notch people. So because otherwise it's like you're competing for 3 full days, early morning all the way till 10 o'clock at night, and sometimes you're watching just beginners spending time there. Right? So I decided to have one big one and have preliminaries in these 4 areas to select the best ones to compete on the mountain.
And I will mention on the corruption thing, when I was there was a dispute over who won a particular push hands match. And, things got heated, and, we were waiting to see what was going to happen. And, Master Chen, to his credit, kept everyone calm. And then he brought the people that were complaining, he brought them over to a video screen. And he showed them a replay of the match. And then they clearly saw that they had indeed lost. And then they actually apologized. They apologized for the way they behaved, thinking they had gotten robbed, when in reality, they had lost for real. And once they saw the video, they apologized, and everything was good. So it is important to run a clean event, and Master Chen tries to do that to the best of his ability.
So I don't know about other martial art events, but in terms of Taiji, the last competition I offered, the first prize was 100,000 yuan. That's close to 20,000 US, and that's the largest in the world for Taiji.
Right.
And even for the normal guy, that's not too shabby, right? It costs you $1,000 to get there.
Right. And the prize money in China, what is that compared to like salary in China?
100,000 is probably make 2,000 a month.
Okay.
So 20,000. So it's 5 years of salary.
Right. So like it's a pretty substantial prize.
Yeah, it's for Taiji, it's a small sport, right?
Yeah. So again, if you're interested, practicalmethod.com, and you can contact Master Chen. He can give you all the information on it. So, could you explain your feelings on internal and external when it comes to martial arts?
In China, we have these terms, but in reality, the tradition is that old masters will tell you there's good martial art and bad martial art.
Right.
Not internal martial art and external martial art. And there are martial arts that will work and martial arts that will not work. And so it's more of a quality versus the appearance.
Right.
The other part is that a little bit more directly related to this idea of internal is that the internal martial art does the same, but on the appearance will not show you. You can't see where the power is from. So it's more, in today's term, I would say, stealthy style.
Right.
instead of internal style.
Right.
Because internal gives you a meaning that's unrelated to martial art.
Right.
And related to your thoughts, to
Right.
something mysterious and hidden. No, it's not mysterious, it's not hidden. It's like the stealth fighter is a real machine, and it's a top quality machine. It's just you cannot detect it. It has nothing to do with it. It's not mysterious.
Right.
And
Right.
because if you actually walk up to it, it's all real.
Right.
And you see every part is better made than your normal plane.
Right. Right.
So it's like that. And more importantly, it is how to train. Yeah. The traditional Chinese internal martial art masters train very hard. And like today's boxing, professionally, with the weight, with hitting and all of that, they just hide that part. They don't want people to see. So it's like that. There is a story of people who do Tai Chi. Even if you don't do Yang style, you know that the normal style you see in the park, like this here, is Yang style. And the third generation Yang style family member tried to commit suicide 3 times. It's because the training is so hard, he didn't want to go through with it. He said, I'd rather die than to train like that. And it turned out it was the shaking of the long pole. The family pole is very thick, it's 5 meters long. You have to shake it 100 times at a stretch, and you have to do this multiple times until you collapse. And by the third generation, the Yang family became really wealthy. When you are very rich, you want to spend money having a good time. You don't want to work this hard.
Right.
And that story, whether it's true or not, even if it's made up based on facts similar to it. So this is a
Right.
glorified story, but it shows that even in the family, without people knowing, when they close the doors, they train really hard. And it's physical, it's hard, they hit, they throw. And Tai Chi is supposed to include hitting, kicking, brushing, twisting, wrestling, jumping, and all sorts of things. But today, people get the idea that it's for old people.
Right. Well, me, when I, owning a school in New York all those years, I rented my space to 3 different Taiji masters. And whenever I watched them teach a class, I never felt that they were teaching martial arts. They just seemed to be, moving their arms around, and it didn't really seem to make sense from a martial arts standpoint. And when I met Master Chen, my whole opinion of Tai Chi was upended. Now I'm like, wait a second, this is Tai Chi? But those other guys said this was Tai Chi. So, one of the things I wanted to ask was, how important is it to teach Tai Chi as a martial art? And in teaching it as a martial art, isn't that the only way you're truly getting the full health benefit of Tai Chi?
The way Tai Chi developed is that before Tai Chi was called Tai Chi, it was a martial art, just like every other martial art. So to North American people, you probably heard Shaolin Temple.
Right.
The Shaolin Temple is on the south side of the Yellow River. And the Chen village that created the Taiji is on the north side of the river. They are very close. Within, if you stand on the tower, you can see each other. And before the distinction, it was the same martial art. So for example, in the second set of Taiji, it's called the Cannon Fist. And the routine has names. Out of the whole form, 32 out of 38 are identical to the Shaolin form.
Okay.
And very likely at the very beginning they were doing the same form. It's just because of the river they did not meet every day, then gradually your style will change. And the so-called, in today's words, that the Chen village people became internal. And the Shaolin people continued to be external. And whatever that term meant, it just
Right.
meant these started to be different. And then you can see the origin, they were both martial arts. So now to continue from there, but it turned out the people who did the Taiji part, they lived longer. And they used to fight the same. But after the fight, they retired. These guys lived till 80 something. And the Shaolin people lived much, much shorter. There were very few of them who lived over 60. And in the Shaolin Temple, the people who lived longer were not martial arts people. They were the old monks, and they didn't do martial art, and they were chanting all the time. And so in recent years, I'm talking about less than 100 years, the people realized that doing Tai Chi can prolong your life.
Right.
But Tai Chi was a martial art. And they found a better way to do it for health.
Right.
But if you change it, it's not for health anymore.
Right.
And the current version usually is a changed version.
And basically, so it's like you said before, there's a right and wrong. There's a right way to do it and a wrong way to do it.
And unless you're a professional, you don't know the difference.
Right. So, well, I think we're going to end it there. I want to thank Master Chen Zhonghua for consenting to be interviewed on the program. And if you like this interview, please click like and subscribe and share and let your friends know. And again, I'll put a link in the description to Master Chen's website. You can go there. You can purchase videos. You can find out when he's going to be around for workshops. I highly recommend you attend one of his workshops. It will be eye-opening, including for all my karate friends. Okay, if you wanna see very high-level martial arts, I highly recommend attending one of his workshops. All right, so again, appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next episode. Thanks.
Thank you, Mike.